Okay, since this is our first meeting, we're going to go a little bit out of order. So we're going to do a roll call first.
Commissioner Archambault?
Here.
Commissioner Finnegan?
Here.
Commissioner Knuckle?
Kunkel.
Kunkel.
Yes,
sorry.
here.
Commissioner Corley?
Here.
And Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
All here.
Okay, and before we do election of officers, we need an approval of the agenda. So I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mickey and Jim. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we will go to election of officers. Are there any nominations for Chair of the Golf Services Advisory Board?
I'd like to nominate Mickey Archambault.
Second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Okay, so Commissioner Tyson, that was a motion?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have a second by John, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mickey, you can now take over the meeting.
Okay. So next agenda item is a vice chair. So would that be in case I can't make a meeting, or we just need it for parliamentary purposes?
Either or,
So it can be anybody?
it can be anyone.
Okay, so I nominate John Kunkel for vice chair.
Second.
Okay, that's your motion, so now you would call for a vote.
Oh, okay, vote please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Like I said, it's been a while.
No worries.
Okay, public comment, doesn't look like anyone's here to do public comment. So I'd like to move agenda items around so we can assist Vince to be able to leave quickly and be able to go to his other meeting.
Would you like to have Vince speak as public comment? So he can just go now?
Well, no, I think, no, I'd actually would want to bring up one of the items, so just go for it. So it was a list that I put together, Vince, I don't think you have seen it. Oh, you've seen it now, it's in front of you.
Yeah.
So, I know or I believe there's been discussion in the past about how to enhance and possibly improve and/or do a capital project at the driving range. One of the things I have heard in the past is could we introduce something like Golf Tracker, or basically some way to enhance, not just hitting golf balls out there, but other things that would be enhancements. In full disclosure, I've had this conversation with Miles, and I had the same conversation with Vince. And I teed it up with Vince that, I know this doesn't come free. And I think we initially teed up a ballpark budget of $1.2 million, and possibly higher if we wanted to do something more special. But then I also chatted with Vince about, hey, is there a possibility, or would there be something that could be entertained where Kemper Sports could also be an investor or partner in this, which I know has all kinds of legs and complications to it. So.
Commissioner Archambault, for a point of order, what item on the agenda is this? As the advisory board has approved the agenda as presented, we would need for the advisory board to add these additional items to the agenda if they're not under advisory board member comments, or the board would have to be okay with moving that up to the beginning of the agenda.
So I would make a motion to add that discussion about either Topgolf or Golf Tracker type structure for the driving range as an agenda item that we can immediately speak to. That's my motion. Second?
Am I able to make a point of order? That this is probably part of a larger bucket, and if we'd like that to be the first piece of the larger bucket of improvements, both from a ways to bring in more money and ways to improve the experience, I'm just thinking structure-wise, that could be helpful.
Right. Well, I'm trying to capture the Vince.
Gotcha, so you just want to hit on that.
I want to hit on that, and is there any, maybe you changed your mind about it, you still be interested in it, because that's going to be a long discussion. before anyone comes to any sort of recommendation or conclusion on it.
Yeah, well, so,
Vince, before you start talking on that, I would just want to make sure, because this has not been put on the agenda and posted to the public as a topic for the agenda
Right.
this afternoon, it would be pertinent to make sure that that information is out there and that we have it appropriately on this agenda or on a future agenda to speak more in depth, because as this is the first meeting of the advisory board, having that information without having information beforehand doesn't give a lot of information for folks to go by right at this point in time.
And point of order, what Shannon's saying now, I think goes in line with 3.4 in the agenda, which is really how are we going to bring up these items in the future and the items to be brought up. So I do agree that jumping deep into one doesn't give the public the opportunity, but also maybe doesn't frame that particular discussion in the broader set of things that we'd like to discuss. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, Mickey, if I can make a recommendation,
Sure.
I think if I understand the agenda as it's laid out, it's really to give everybody kind of a background and say, this is how we got here, these are the decisions that have been made, these are the ones that haven't been made, to give everybody kind of the same starting point, and then maybe we just agree to table that item and to when Vince can be here next,
Yep.
assuming he can be here, maybe we decide our future meeting is on a day that definitely Vince can be here to speak
Yep.
to that, both Vince and Miles.
I'm 100% in favor. I just want to make sure at some point in time we have the discussion. So if we, if we're time constrained and it's not formally on the agenda now, I'm okay with tabling that discussion till later if everyone else agrees.
Agreed, with the assumption that we'll put it on a future agenda, yes.
We
Okay.
can make sure that it's on the next meeting agenda.
Great, okay. So we're going to go to item 3 under new business, review of resolution number 2025-04-24-01, establishing the Golf Services Advisory Board. So is there anything more formal, Shannon, that we need to do to acknowledge this board?
No, there is nothing formal in regards to this. I wanted to make sure that everybody had this document at their disposal to make sure that everybody on the advisory board knew the task that has been given to everybody on the advisory board, as the park board has put in place through this resolution that was adopted in July of this last year.
So everybody should have a copy.
And everybody should have a copy, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have on that resolution.
Quick question on the resolution
Of course.
is, in thinking through the makeup of this advisory board, there was a recent point of knowledge to me that there's also a large representation of via the women's golf club at the public park, and I understand that no one applied. However, we recently got their contact information, and it might be nice to reach out to them. So my question is really, if we were to find someone else to enhance the representation on this committee, would we still be able to add another board or another advisory board member or chairperson?
Yes, so not a chair, the chair has been elected.
Oh, not chair,
As-
but yeah, member.
But as far as members, that goes into the policy 504, where then the board determined the number of board members that were allowed to be on an advisory board.
Okay.
And
And that number can be amended, or we're well
Sounds like
within that
we're,
number.
we're well under
Okay,
at this
great.
point. So we also have, there's another pending application currently. The application is still up on the website. I know that Miles over at the course has sent out information to everybody in the contact list, and it has gone out on all of our social media. It's been spoken about at our meetings. So it's out there, and until those positions are filled, it will be open.
Understood, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of a background to that, Shannon, is, for the three of us, we realize this is kind of like, we want to avoid an issue. So it's like, hey, you have no women on your board, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
This isn't right. And, and Shannon, this thing has been sent out, it's been publicized, it's out there, you haven't had anyone who has responded to it. I think what Troy is saying is if he knows some members of the women's club who might have been somewhat intimidated by it, was like, I don't know what this is all about, you know, is it okay for Troy or John or myself to have that conversation about, hey, this is what it's all about? You know, we would welcome you if
Yeah,
you'd want to do it.
absolutely. They would just need to fill out the application,
Of
and then
course.
that would be brought to the park board for
Right.
approval.
And that actually came up
Whoa.
nice twice at our, I'm gonna keep going, twice at our recent park board meetings.
Okay.
Where the acknowledgement, hey, we'd really like to have a mixture of all representing individuals, so,
Great.
Yeah,
yeah, so,
Yeah, no,
anything, we're completely support that.
I agree. And I think, you know, Shannon has like brought the horse to water. And now we're waiting for a horse to drink.
But at this point, the advisory board has 4 open spaces.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
So that's, 7 resident members, I see here, okay.
Okay.
You don't
If there's
I
nothing
never
else,
count.
if there's nothing else on 3.2, 3.3, establishment of a regular meeting schedule. So for me, that's a discussion in terms of, what do we all think in terms of the number of meetings that we should have, and then when we should have those meetings? And I would at least suggest, let's narrow it to the year 2026 for now. So, I'll dive into the pool. So I would think we, at a minimum, should meet once a quarter. And for the first quarter, maybe twice. So now, and another one before we get to the second quarter of the year. And then we should be well established to have quarterly meetings. That's my opinion, but I will yield to the floor for anybody else's thoughts.
A lot of that depends upon what we accomplish today, does it not?
Not necessarily.
My question would be, would there be room for an ad hoc meeting if, let's say there was a deliverable or there's an outcome that we're trying to proceed to, and a meeting would be in order to review and have comments on? Could we do that between one of the quarterly meetings? If so
Special
discussed?
meetings can be called within 48 hours.
Right.
We prefer more notice than that, but that's.
Sure.
the-
Yeah.
that's the
Give
law.
notice to the
Yeah,
public
Yes.
and-
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see quarterly then being reasonable as on paper, with the idea that we call the special meetings as needed for momentum.
John?
Were you thinking?
So I'm okay with that. I agree with Mickey that out of the gate, we should probably think about what we want to accomplish and even perhaps proactively schedule those now, even if we
I'm good with
terminate
that.
them, cancel them because we don't need them. That would make better sense to me than calling a special meeting and putting pressure on them to
Sure.
get the
Sure.
agendas out, et cetera.
Okay.
And what I would say too, what would be helpful for the public, it has something that's a regular time, regular day, regular time. So it's easier to remember for the public that may want to attend a meeting.
Okay. Scott,
Yep.
any ideas, comments?
I think quarterly is good, and then I agree if something major comes up that needs our advice, then we should have plenty of time to schedule it in advance.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah.
Good with that?
I think that works.
Okay.
And to hit on John's point, would it be prudent then to maybe, through our discourse today, plan a couple of those special meetings, or at least float dates now? So like maybe 1, 2 in between now and our next quarterly? I'm trying to.
That would be my suggestion.
We can definitely, we could do that now, or we could wait to the agenda item that,
We're right here.
to talk, we jumped, all right, we've approved these documents already?
They're not approved, they're just for information.
Okay,
They're not
so
approved.
no approvals. Okay, so we're officially on 3.3 now.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
That's our stand corrected. I'm just lagging
Okay.
behind.
No, I got you. So, what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we'd like to go ahead and schedule at least the quarterly meetings now, and if everyone's in agreement to have one more meeting in this first quarter, then let's look up calendars and let's go for it. So,
For regular meetings, would something similar to this as like the first Tuesday of the quarter
sure.
Works for me.
at 4
Yeah, I
PM?
don't know what dates those are.
I don't know either. There's probably a holiday in
so
there that
it's-
I'm missing, but
First Tuesday of the quarter, so January.
Potentially
February. So the
reschedule.
next one would be the first Tuesday of April.
April 7th would be the date.
April 7th. And what's that,
Seventh.
Tuesday, seventh?
Seventh as well.
And what's the next one?
The last one would be October.
6th? Hey, look, I
At
did
this
pretty
time.
good on that one.
At this time.
Do
All
we
right,
have a board
any
meeting?
appetite to have a meeting between
We'll have a
now
board
and
meeting, I
April
believe, in
7th?
October, right?
Yes.
So,
That's
want
what we'll be
to
looking
split the baby here, or have it like in 3 weeks?
4 p.m.
Which today is the 6th, plus 21 would be the 33rd. No, doesn't work.
Why don't we just go for the first Tuesday in February, which is February 3rd?
Fine with me. Does that
Works
work
for
for
me.
everybody?
Okay.
Okay. And Shannon, I assume that gives you,
Yeah, and then
Second.
we'll make sure so if that's approved, or if that's the consensus of the advisor, Miles, you have something?
Sorry, still 4 p.m.?
Yes.
Good point of order.
If that's the consensus of the advisory board, then if we could just have a motion for those 4 dates.
Okay.
So that way we can make sure we get that, it's
Yep.
officially approved, and then we
Gotcha.
can get it up on
All right, so
Diligent.
I have a motion for the next meetings, scheduled meetings for the advisory board to be on Tuesday, February 3rd at 4 PM, April 7th at 4 PM, July 7th, was it? At 4 PM, and October 6th at 4 PM, with the caveat that if we need a special meeting, it would be brought up either on the February 3rd meeting or April 7th meeting or sometime thereafter. That's the motion. Second?
Second?
Any other discussion on it? We're good? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm getting my sea legs again. This-
We're in trouble.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna go on to 3.4, discussion of future agenda structure. So Shannon, I would ask for a little bit of help on what is desired out of this agenda item.
So this is basically for the advisory board to inform us as staff what you would like to see on these agendas. So we put this together, just kind of, okay, what might we want to talk about this first meeting, but without really any context of what the advisory board members wanted to have as either a standing item or specific things that you wanted to see updates on or more information on, and basically find out what the advisory board members want to talk about in our meetings that are on a standard basis. There's always the ability to add an item to the agenda, or either by contacting myself or contacting Saba, we can put something on the agenda. But as far as standing items and those types of things, what the advisory board members are looking for.
Thoughts, gentlemen? I mean, I know I know you, Troy, and I have a whole list of stuff, so, and eventually
I
we'll get to it.
I don't know if they're standing items, I don't know how to bucket them into standing items. From my perspective in my seat, like, I would like to understand what the Park District wants to glean from the advisors, and what the outcome is in relation to Kemper Sports as well. And then we can all align on what our targets are.
100% in agreement. That would be great for us, so we can narrow down our focus and that it's in line with the expectations that were set up front for you all. And then also any understanding, just to maybe hammer home what John said, is if there were discussions with Kemper around this board, that would be helpful if they're open and able to be shared, just so we understand the thinking like Kemper was coming in with. If they shared anything around their strategy for improvements or key focuses, strategic decisions that they would like to make as well, so we could bring that into our agenda also.
I would hand it over to the park board commissioners to,
So I'm gonna make a recommendation, we table 3, 4, maybe to the end of the meeting, because I think the next couple of agenda items might
Might start to
answer or
clarify.
partially
Right.
answer your
Yeah.
questions.
Right.
Perfect.
I would agree with that.
Would you agree, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I need a motion to move it, or we're all good?
I make a motion to move 3.4 to the end of the agenda after the Kemper Sports update, 4.2.
Okay, so 3.4 goes, will now be 4.3.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now you get to talk to us guys, and we're gonna attentively listen. So on to presentations, comprehensive master plan, golf facilities overview.
Okay,
Is it
so
that whole book?
this is not the all golf stuff. This is all the
We're gonna need
things.
2 minutes, we'll take a look.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes. So everybody should have this document. They have this document you have it at your disposal. And basically, this comprehensive master plan, it's the vision of the park district as set forth basically by the community for our next 10 years. It's the vision, and then from this, we are currently working on our strategic plan, which is our to-do list from the vision from this master plan. So the specific items that talk to the golf course there's really two areas. So focus area number 11 is assess overall programmatic needs of the golf club and plan renovations to better support the programs of this facility and to potentially use available space to support additional golf-related programming. And it says, planning considerations, this strategy must be considered after 2 years to assess the financial performance of the golf club now that it is operational following an 18-month closure in conjunction with the contracted facility administration. So that is one of the focus areas in the master plan. Another one that's not specifically related to the golf club, but is fairly related, is in relation to focus area 15, which is monitor and assess cost recovery rate and address projections. So that has to do more with the financials of things and what is our cost recovery for greens fees and for, the 18-hole versus the 9-hole for carts and.
So the physical space programming improvements would play into that, but separate
Could.
from that.
Yeah, so those are the things that, and if you've heard any of the conversations that the park board has had, is that cost recovery is a very important item to look at, especially with this facility being that it's meant to be self-sufficient and raise its own money. And that not only includes operating, but the goal is for also their capital items as well. And with that, those are the major areas of focus in the comprehensive master plan. If you're ever bored and want to read through the massive document, there are items that are reports on facility structures and what things look like and what should be improved, those types of things, whether it's the golf maintenance building or over at the golf course,
It's good stuff to look at.
yeah,
And
there's.
you've got
Very
the
eye-opening.
page numbers
Yes.
called out right here on the agenda.
That's awesome.
Where to
I
look.
didn't see that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
That's helpful.
Thank you, Saba.
It's on the member agenda. It'll be the online one. but
Okay.
when
Yeah.
you-
Right.
So those are the main things when it comes to the comprehensive master plan. So as we're going through the strategic plan, with the strategic plan being the staff document of, okay, I'm checking off I did this, I did this, I did this. We base that on the information that we received in the comprehensive master plan. So that's going to, and we're probably 2 or 3 months away from me having a draft of that. For us having a draft, we've worked through brainstorming with staff and that sort of thing. We had some staffing changes internally, so my focus has had to shift a little bit from that. but we are still working towards that as our to-do list. And that to-do list is for 5 years. So not all of the things that the comprehensive master plan says for the vision are going to be accomplished in the first rendition of the strategic plan, which would be over a 5-year period that we would make updates to annually. And, yeah.
So-
Any questions on?
Yeah, no, another point of information is, I think the target is still to maintain a 25% reserve.
That's what's in our policy.
Right. So that has, for John and Troy's benefit, that hasn't always been the case. Golf courses struggled financially in years past, so you kind of had to, pardon the expression, rob Peter to pay Paul from other funds. But even at that, I don't think covered having a 25% reserve. So the goal now is, let's get that 25% reserve and let's make sure it's maintained. So
Yeah.
that becomes part of budgeting and capital and how you're gonna raise money and what your expenses are. That is part of the equation.
So,
And that's what we have in there now.
And there's
That's what's budgeted currently.
and Jen, your strategic plan's gonna accommodate or account for that reserve requirement and show what the budget is?
That's policy, so that's
Okay.
already there.
That's already there,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, and if you want to look it up, it's not hidden. You can look up what the budget is for the golf course,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, we looked at that.
And that, Shannon, if you could, at least for the three of us, it'd be great just to, if you could send us that piece of it so we're aware of it.
The budget for the
Yeah.
golf course?
Right.
Yeah, of course.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Would it be worth making an agenda item for next meeting to go over it at a high level, or do you think it's simple enough?
We can do that. I think that would be a good idea. We can do that.
Okay.
That column.
Yep.
We can send it out early. Miles, you had something?
Would you like me to just send because it was part of the board presentation that I gave to them in October, would you like me to just send that file to our advisory commissioners?
Let's make sure that it's what is approved in the budget for '26, and make sure that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because our accounts are different than your accounts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, have Shannon look at it and go, yeah, has the 2026 budget been approved yet by the board? Or is that
The
January?
budget and appropriate, the board has approved the tentative budget. The budget and appropriation ordinance is coming to the board this month.
Right, so kind of, sometime before February, this thing's gonna be holy water, and that's
Yeah.
it. But the information should be, I don't think you guys are anticipating a big.
No,
swing.
there's
It's
no,
gonna be what it's gonna be.
right.
So, yeah, so if we have that information, it's helpful for us to, that sets guidelines for us. So we're
Yeah.
not coming in asking for crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Although we might anyway,
Right.
but I
Right.
might anyway.
So Shannon, your strategic plan then, is that gonna define the difference between the Park District's goals and the Kemper goals? Like, how do we align what Kemper is trying to achieve to what the Park District's trying to achieve and where we play a part in that?
So how I would answer that is Kemper is a contractor of the Park District. So all would be a Park District
Okay,
goal.
got it.
So they should not be different because Kemper Sports has a contract with the Park District. So what the Park District has put forth as its vision that the community has told the Park District and that the Board of Park Commissioners has adopted is this comprehensive master plan.
Okay,
So this is the vision of the Park District.
great. So, but if Miles and Vince have ideas, that gets bubbled up into that?
If it meets what's in the comprehensive plan, then possibly, I mean, funding is going to rule the roost here.
Okay,
So it's definitely something, and also this is an advisory board, so the advisory board can't make any funding decisions,
Right.
but you can bring recommendations to the board. And regardless of what the comprehensive, I mean, I can make recommendations on what the advisory board should and shouldn't do. I can't, or staff can't, stop the advisory board from telling something to the park board. So whether it's in the comprehensive master plan or not, the advisory board can bring whatever they please to.
That makes sense.
the
But it's fair to
board.
say that whatever we bring forth, we've got to segment into what that comprehensive plan is.
That would be, I believe, most appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna, as an example, let's take a wild swing, if you come in and go, we need to get a new clubhouse, and we need to get it now. You could bring it up, I think I know what the answer is gonna be. I think we all know what the answer is. So it's kinda like, you wanna be in keeping with what's going on, and I think what's certainly important for me is to get a really good understanding of 2026. What's the plan for the golf course? What's in, what's contemplated to be done, capital or otherwise? I know when you send a budget, you'll be able to see what the revenue projections are, so obviously the projections is higher. But I think that would help us to kind of understand, okay, we get a clear vision on what should be happening on the golf course this year. And then future stuff, great, then those become agenda items. It's like, okay, this is great for 2026, we understand any constraints that we have, and let's talk on the 5-year plan, and, if some of this stuff isn't in that long-range stuff, can we talk about it?
Yeah, I think going back to kind of the genesis of this sidebar, which was John's question around how Kemper aligns with the Park District, I think I'm hearing that the master plan the Park District put forth is in line with Kemper as a subcontractor and what they are going to seek to do. I think to go a little bit deeper into the details, one of the questions we might pose is, are there contractual considerations that would prohibit or not incentivize them to pursue some of the ideas we'd have? And that could be a constraint on the ideas we put forth, if that makes sense. So we'd want to make sure that whatever contract Kemper has, they have an interest in pursuing the ideas we're bringing forward. And if there isn't a connection there, then maybe the advice we might give would be to create that connection from Kemper's contractual obligations to the ideas that we, and therefore eventually maybe hopefully the Park District will put forth as well. And I don't mean that has to be litigated today, but I think it'd just be a helpful consideration and good for us to understand that relationship between that contract, because they're really only supposed to do what they're contracted to do.
Right.
And if we're bringing up ideas that are outside of that contract, the viability of that would be a question, and so that's kind of what we're trying to get at, I think.
Would it be helpful for the advisory board to have a copy of the contract with Kemper Sports?
I think it would.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty familiar with it, but I couldn't.
Also, I think that's one of the pieces of value of Miles being here and Vince when he's here. I mean, they can call out right away. We don't have to spend a lot of time on a topic and then without them saying, hey, this is gonna be an issue,
Yeah.
because they're at the table.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Jeff, no, I think it's gonna be important for us to get that framework and understand what their responsibilities contractually are and
Agreed.
what is not.
All
And
valuable
I think
points.
we know that that's in keeping with what the Park District, including the Park Board, has in mind for what they want Kemper to do as well. So, but it'd be helpful for us. It's just like, I want to, as much as we can, stay on the rails. And yeah, we can have discussions about stuff that's up here, but let's make sure we understand what's in the rails, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so any other discussion on 4.1? Okay, we're gonna move on to 4.2, which is Kemper Sports Update.
Thank you, Vicky. So I guess, question for you, Shannon.
Okay.
Is what would you like to typically have on these updates that are not part of our normal board meeting updates?
I don't know, Miles.
Is that just a general question?
Yes.
So the three of us can tell you
Maybe
what
we can
we're
ask
looking
that,
for.
maybe we can answer it with a question. What do you typically provide during these updates?
So
Are you
typically.
from New York, answering the question? with a question?
Lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not a lawyer.
Yeah, we typically give financial updates and then just updates about any operational, capital projects that are going on or hirings, anything like that, so.
Marketing, you usually have a little
Yeah.
bit on
Yeah,
marketing.
Mary Kate, right?
Yeah, she's my marketing director.
Yeah, she's marketing director at Kemper.
Original.
And then Evan would come and give updates periodically on
Periodically, yeah.
what's going on the course and what's being planned
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, and if you would like him to be at future meetings, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think there'll be a common time that, when we start getting
Yeah.
a little bit into the weeds of stuff,
Of course.
there are some things that we have.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess just
Maybe we just
high
say into the
level
rough.
update for you right now. So we, 2025 was a very successful year for us. We met and achieved budget, had a significant win in net operating income for the year. So, talking on the fund balance, we have met and far exceeded that fund balance, 25% for 2026. So we're in a good spot there to help us fund, capital projects for 2026. We have some capital projects that were approved during the budget presentation process to the park commissioners. So that work has begun with getting bids and quotes for those projects. And then we also posted for food and beverage director position about 3 hours ago. So we'll start that hiring process here, hoping to bring somebody on or around March 1st, which I think, as we all know, is a huge opportunity for growth for us at the golf course. So excited for that.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Well, my question is more procedural. During the Kemper update, is there room for conversation and discussion around some of those updates? Is that the purpose of the Kemper update, or is it more for us to hear and then bring those topics to a future agenda? I'm just asking point of order because my brain's already going mile a minute of questions for Miles, but I also don't want to go out of turn and want to give him the proper chance to come prepared and all of that.
From our perspective, I believe you can ask questions, you can ask for more clarifying information going into a deep,
Let's not go
make a
down that
motion,
hole.
make a decision, kind of thing. That's not what it's for.
Yeah.
But if there's more information you need on something, or it's a follow-up question on, hey, what's going on with this? Or, oh, you mentioned that you're doing this project, what is the timeline for that? Those types of things are absolutely appropriate. And if there's something that does need to come back for another agenda because it is something that is more, that we need to provide more information on, and you would like to have an agenda item on it in the future, we can absolutely do that, as well as follow up with information individually after the meeting, whether it's like a report or something,
Great.
information that you need.
Well, I don't think anything that we say will be a surprise to Miles, because what I'll say is, first of all, that there's a lot of things we, as members and patrons of the golf course, and I'll go on record saying, really appreciate about what Kemper, what you particularly, Miles, have done, and personally, I'm thankful for that. So I want to say that. And anything we do bring up is spirit of partnership and collaboration and achieving that going forward. So definitely want to say that. But then also, as you brought up food and beverage director, I go, bing, yes, because that I think is a thorn in the side for a lot of folks. Maybe a topic for later if it does get too deep, but just offhand, I think Kemper does this already in so many different places. So one of the things we are looking for as the advisory board is to understand how is Kemper doing it at some of the other locations, and if it's different, why? For instance, when you say food and beverage director, does Kemper have someone that already does that for other courses? Are you considering using that at scale, or is there a particular individual who will be just for this course? And then also, what are some of the considerations of how you're going about hiring? Do you already have folks in mind? I think that, because that is a big sticking point for a lot of the members, as I've heard from talking to different folks.
Yeah, no, of course, and that's one of the reasons this is, not a position that every golf course at our size and scope would have, but that's something that, again, I think we see a need there, and it's worth the investment. To kind of rapid fire on some of your questions, we do have a national food and beverage director for the company. It's Chef Ford, who's the executive chef at Streamsong, actually oversees kind of our national food and beverage operation. But we don't have anybody that does kind of the granular work that we're looking for. So properties will have managers or directors at the individual properties. Like Glen Club has a food and beverage director. At Deer Path at Lake Forest, they have an executive chef that basically is a manager as well. So some of these properties have their own on-site managers that don't necessarily go to any other clubs because we are working with different clients. So
Makes sense.
like here, our client is you.
Right.
Deer Path, our client is the city of Lake Forest, et cetera. So
Okay.
there was one other question that you had.
Miles, coming back to kind of where we started with Troy's comment, like, do you have a master list of 2026 projects that we could start with?
So yes, yeah. So capital projects.
Just overall, even your golf programming, like, I don't even know where to start.
I wouldn't say I don't have a master just combined list, that's something I could definitely prepare for you pretty quickly. I have lists all over.
I think that would dovetail nicely into the budget conversation.
Yes.
For 2026.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we put that as an agenda item for next
Yes, because we
meeting.
do have
Sure.
the, like, capital-wise, we do have the capital projects that were approved that we are working on.
You could probably rattle those off pretty quick.
Yeah,
guess
it's
it's just gonna
utility
ask you
cards
that.
for our maintenance crew, so we're gonna buy, 3 new utility carts as our crew expands over there. Verticutting reels for our greens mowers, dining room furniture, a new pump for the pond on 17 to, remove water from the property. We are seal coating the parking lot, which is part of the larger project for the, park district, and then new range mats.
New range mats, okay.
That was fast. I didn't catch all of that, but I do think for the next meeting, since it's just a month away, it would be helpful if we could get that ahead of time. And what I'm thinking is, maybe you've already done this kind of colloquially, verbally in your discussions with Vince and others, but the way I see it is budget is kind of a mix of the needs, and the needs are risk-based, like you said, guards, like safety guards, those obvious ones, and you kind of start there. Then there's continuing operations, what do we need to replace just to stay in order so the lights are on? And then there's the improvements to ideally increase revenue or experience.
But our job isn't to replace what the Parks District's job is to do, which is to govern that capital expenditure, right?
What I'm saying is getting that strategy of need connected to the budget would be the full picture, and I think just the budget won't get us there. So understanding kind of the thinking that has gone into why these items are in the budget and not others would be helpful for us.
Okay. Something-
Does that make sense?
Well, it does, but that could be a wide open, guess I don't wanna keep it within the rails, so, you know, for
Well,
Miles, it's like, hey, here's what we have planned for this year. So I don't think anybody wants us to come back to go, Miles, don't, forget about doing the furniture, let's do this instead of the furniture. Maybe we do have that discussion, maybe we don't. Again, I wanna leave it open, at least put stuff on the table. But I don't think we should be looking to change what is the program for this year. So furniture's going in unless,
And we really can't without,
and it goes a whole next
Right.
level back to board meetings
because
and
with
reapproving
the,
budgets and all
the
that
budget
stuff.
appropriations
That's a heavy lift.
ordinance is something that says, okay, well, this is where all of the budgets and the accounts and everything goes through. We are well past that point
Yeah.
with the board, hopefully, approving, approving that, towards the end of this month. When we go through the budget process, which usually begins late summer, that, I like to begin early summer, but, you know, everyone else kind of gets on me about that. But that's kind of when the budget process starts. And especially for this advisory board being first meeting, getting our sea legs, and figuring out hey, what is our task and our goal? And then possibly when it comes to 2027 budget year, if that's something that it's the ideas that are talked about through the beginning of the year and through summer, those are the things that, because Miles and Vince and the Kemper team, they do a really good job of putting the priority, gotta have, nice to haves, those types of things. So they do a really good job on prioritizing those items within the budget process. And then it just comes down to what funding is available. Because we are not taking anything out of the Park District coffers to pay for items in the golf course budget. So that very much limits the amount of capital that can be done at this point, because after the course was built, those coffers have shrunk.
Yeah.
So it has to build up.
Makes sense.
And Kemper and the course are doing a really good job on bringing in that revenue, but it's not millions at this point, you know? So it's really something that we have to do a little bit at a time with the funding that's available in order to get some of those high priority needs done, like the pump. I mean, we did all the work to fix the course. We don't want it to flood, so we want to make sure that the pumps are working. So that is an absolutely gotta have. And when we're looking at those things and the budget with the operating too, because with the fund balances all together, what's available also includes that operating budget. So the operating budget, so if we have to, if Kemper is increasing salaries, if they're adding a new position, if they're, the cost of goods is more than it was previously, then that's gonna cut into what's available for capital as well. So those are some things that we look at throughout that budget process as well. So it's not that anybody is saying, oh, we don't want to do all of the fun things and all of the cool things. It's looking at it from the fiscal perspective of, can we with the funding that's available while still maintaining that 25% per our policy for funding.
Yeah, and Shannon, I think you're looking at the three of us to come for like, you know, we will understand what's in the bucket for 26. So if it's stuff on either my list or anyone else's list, and it's like, okay, so that becomes visionary. It's like, you know, how much, so can we prioritize that stuff that, hey, in 2027, you know, if you're gonna go through a list and prioritize, we think this should be a high priority.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing to elucidate my comment a little bit more. From earlier, I wasn't trying to get to are the things in the budget for this next year the correct thing? It's more of what thought has gone into the things we should be focused on from Kemper, because that will help us dive a little deeper and maybe provide that feedback from the perspective of the players in the community of, oh, okay, I get it, that makes sense, but if you knew X, maybe it would have been a little bit different. Or, for instance, I think Kemper did a great job at getting really good feedback from folks on the course and the improvements, which was really helpful. But how can we maybe expand that feedback from a broader perspective other than just us three or the men's club or even the women's club to a broader spectrum of, let's say, programming for golf, like junior programs and things like that. So it was more of to bring out what has been done to date from Kemper's perspective to understand where those gaps might be for future forward years. So I'm with you there, Mickey, and also think that
Yeah.
it could still be helpful to understand the thinking behind why these items, and are there any other items that were considered?
Yeah, and there absolutely was. I mean, I know Miles' spreadsheet, even my glasses don't work to read it because it's so tiny, but.
That spreadsheet?
Yeah, and so, but that information is there, the prioritizations of the items
And I
that were
assume
put
it
on
is.
there.
I just think it'd be good
Yeah.
input for this.
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure we
correct me
can
if I'm wrong, I think
send
kind
that
of
to
where
them.
we're going
Yeah.
with that is, Miles, from your perspective and what you're doing on other courses, are there things that are successful on those courses that we aren't doing on our golf course that should be stuff we should be considering?
Yeah, so I think that's a hard question for me to answer. I think that's definitely more of a Finn's question
Sure.
because that's his purview, is other
Mhm.
courses. My focus is Winnetka. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the courses I've been at recently are competitors. So, but I think generally what we are doing is in line with what everybody else and our, not just within our company, but within our comp set is also doing.
Right.
Obviously, there have been different investments by some of the other courses, but, we are very much in line with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, so I mean, as a, drive it down a little bit, as an example, it's like at Deer Path, you've got the lawn, and it seemed like every Saturday there was 75 kids out there, and there was a whole full program going on. And you kind of, I think you still did it this past year, I'm not sure, because I didn't spend a lot of afternoons there. But yeah, is that,
So-
keeping that program, is there stuff you're doing somewhere else that we could enhance that program?
Yeah, so what you're talking about specifically is actually the Discover Golf program, which we did not host this year.
Okay.
That their partnership with us was terminated at the beginning of last year. We have a new company that came in called the Golf Practice that came in late in the year. They started in May or late July of last year, and so their programming for 26 is going to be much more expanded
Oh, good.
because obviously they got such a late start last year. So you will see more of that at Winnetka
That's
this
awesome.
year. our junior program will be.
Miles, is that just juniors, or are you gonna look to do other programming with them to expand the?
So their
Opportunities for
purview is
beginners.
just juniors,
Okay.
yep, and then all adult programming will be done in-house. But, you know, that's something we are looking at is expanding, doing beginner clinics, ladies clinics, senior clinics, things like that. That's something we didn't do this past year.
And disabled veteran stuff,
That we do through PGA Hope, that we've
Okay.
done every year.
Right.
yeah. So, yeah, that's gonna be
So,
helpful.
and that's kind of my
to know.
question about what is your list of golf programming,
Yeah,
right? So we don't have to be duplicative of the stuff that you already have top of mind, that we don't have to come back to you and say,
Yes.
yeah, I'm already working on it, you know?
right, yeah, it's like, okay, we know you're doing it, we won't have to ask you about it. Okay, cool. All right,
Mickey, real quick question, when we think about the budget, maybe this is to Shannon, or maybe to the Park District, like, where there is a budget limitation, what is the process and/or appetite for us to contemplate outside funds to pay for it that might not be your traditional fund?
meaning contributions or,
Yeah, or advertising, or whatever it might be.
okay. That's a good question. I don't, is that a Mary Kate thing, Miles, for?
For
That's
ad-
really for marketing, but in terms of.
So for advertising,
The Parks
the-
Foundation
the-
or something.
the Park District has a policy on sponsorships and donations and those types of things. It would fall within those types of regulations. As far as advertising per se, it's fairly limited on what's allowed to be advertised, because we don't want, you know, everything to be an advertisement.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's very limited from that side of things. There are a few items that we have in our fee schedule that are advertisements, and the board adopts our fee schedule annually. They just approved advertising in our brochure, in our activity guide, our quarterly guide, starting this year. So that's something that was just added. They review that annually for the next year. So if that's something that is of a want to do, it could be a suggestion. I don't know how popular it would be in regards to advertising itself for all the time stuff. As far as donations would, again, go through our policy. If it's over a certain amount, it has to be accepted by the park board. And, or if it's donated to the foundation, they would have to also approve something if it's going to be specifically restricted to golf.
Okay.
But those are possible things. We've done them for quite a few things. Recently, the scoreboard out here was just donated. The board approved that.
Paddle courts, the 2 paddle courts.
Oh, yes, when those were built, the board approved that. And there's, you know, a couple other little things out there as well, but those are absolute options.
Can I touch real quick as well? In my experience, the advertising at golf courses doesn't drive a great deal of revenue. If you're talking using that as funding for potential capital projects, I don't think that's something that you're gonna
No,
necessarily move the
yeah.
needle on.
Yeah.
It's not gonna make a dent in
Advertising probably
larger
would not be the
capital
path,
projects.
but their donations, given the community we're
Yes.
in, it was certainly an opportunity. And
Right.
but even like the women's club or the men's club has dollars to spend that we could contemplate for some of these capital improvements if there's a benefit.
Yeah, if you didn't know, John, the paddle courts, the 2 additional paddle
Oh.
courts, the
I know Colin really
paddle,
well.
so you know, so
Yeah.
those guys literally paid for it
Yeah,
on their own. Not 100%, because there's still stuff that the Park District had to do.
Yeah.
But that was a very sizable outlay of money that club did to get that. If we could get that for the golf course, would we entertain it? I'd be astonished if we said no.
yeah.
But if someone writes a $25,000 check to the Parks Foundation, you know, they would have to say, if they wanted it to go to the golf course, they're gonna write you a check for 25 grand. I want it to be used specifically
For X.
for X, well, not necessarily X, for the golf course. If there is a specific that they want. I wanna pay for new drinking fountains. Okay,
sorry to interrupt, I do have to step out for a call. I don't know if this will go past 5:30. If it does, I'll be in the parking lot, I'll come back in.
Okay.
Any other key points, Miles, that you wanted to touch on that you were gonna update on before I take off? Otherwise, I could catch up at the end of the time.
Yeah, that was the extent. That was it.
Yeah, I think we were, if Miles was done, we're gonna be going to our comments, so we gotta grab the call.
Yep,
Is it at 5?
it is at 5, yeah, so I'm
Your
popping out.
comments in 2 minutes, or? you
Yeah, I'm
wanna-
gonna give my quick comments, which is just thank you to all of the board members that are here today. I know this is a lot of time out of your busy schedule too, and whether or not golf personally is high on your list, I appreciate your attention to this matter as a part of the community, and I'm here to serve as a pleasure. It's my pleasure to serve, and I'm excited if I can get some stuff done. So Miles, thanks again for your partnership, and excited to work with you all. Thank you. I'm gonna go grab the call.
Okay.
Thank you.
If we're still here at 5:30, you're welcome to
be
come
back.
back in, but I
Will
think
do.
we'll all have longer faces if we are.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Great meeting you all.
Thanks, Troy.
You too.
All right, so we're gonna go on to agenda item 5, so we already kind of started it with Troy.
Did we want to go back to 3.4?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, sorry. So, yes, discussion of future agenda structure. So
So one thing we have, was already mentioned, was going over the budget for 2026 and the underlying project, although you already kind of went through them, but if there are any further questions on them specifically, it'd be a good time to talk about.
yeah.
yeah,
so
I think that, as we talked about, just the overall, direction that Miles and Kemper is taking the golf course in 2026, including the golf programming, any, non-capital type improvements as well.
Right. Yeah, I think that'll help us in terms of, again, for a list, so it's like, here's what's scheduled for 2026.
Yeah, and I think, not to, I don't wanna put, if I understood what Troy was saying, I thought he made a very good point, kind of what was the whole methodology for deciding why those became the priority over other things?
Right. There's always gonna be a limitation for capital, so how did they become the first, right?
Right.
So even the things we suggest in the future, we're gonna have some type of prioritization process, we're gonna
Okay.
have a certain amount of money, so it'd be helpful to understand the prioritization process that's already being used, do we adopt that, or do we come up with something?
Right.
Right.
on our own?
So an item for 2026 golf budget, and then an item for golf programming. And the golf budget, we'll talk to prioritizations.
Yeah, so we will have received that, so really, Miles, it'll be just whatever questions we might have on it, I would think, but then
Well,
ongoing
we'll
from
present,
that-
we'll present it, just for the
Yeah.
public's benefit.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, in case someone shows up. So, well,
So coming back to the 3.4, which is now, for me, more clear, I would say a standing agenda item would be progress on current objectives, i.e. short-term objectives, and then we can have maybe a long-term agenda point on ideas for the future and discussion on those ideas, right, whether or not they're, have merit or not, or have already been discussed.
right. Okay. Yeah. and s-
Miles, you had something? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna add, I definitely think for the July meeting would be the meeting that we should discuss. That would be right as we're starting our budget process for
planning.
2027.
Right.
So it wouldn't be the next quarterly meeting, but the meeting after.
So we have a short fuse to figure out what we think is the priority for
Yeah,
2027.
because we typically start, as Kemper will start our budget process on or around July 15th. So we can get it to the Park District for their process in time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got a copy of this
Yes.
tonight, so, yeah, for me, this would be like, okay, here's a whole list of stuff that I put down on paper that I've thought about. Some of it's major capital, some of it's not. And, this is a question, Miles, and if you are uncomfortable answering it, then don't.
Okay.
But for those capital projects that you have, do you have any discretion on those for like, you know what? This isn't gonna cost us what we thought it was gonna cost, so within that framework of our capital budget, maybe I can entertain doing this. Is that something you could do, or you?
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, is that, say if we had 20,000 set aside for a project and it cost 12, and we had an additional $8,000 in funding, that we would have to go to the board to get approval to reallocate that to a different project. that
It de-
correct?
It depends on what it is. There's
it's-
certain things like within, say, the operating budget that aren't like capital,
Right.
that need to be, you know, moved over from one account to another. If it's under a certain dollar amount, Miles will come to me and will say, yep, that's fine, go ahead.
Yeah.
Because it's still within everything. But if it's something that is completely different from what has been accounted for in capital, then the board would have to,
Like,
the park board would have to.
for example, we have 45,000
approve that
allocated for the
budget
new
adjustment.
utility carts.
Right.
If we said, you know what, actually, we don't need new utility cars, we want to get a new range picker and range balls or whatever it would be, I think that would be something we would have to go to the board. Correct? Because that would be an entirely different.
Possible,
item
depending on what
and
account it's in.
Yeah.
department. It's a
Yeah.
different department altogether.
Well, if it's in a different account, so if it's something that is, and I don't have the accounts memorized off the top of my head, but if it's something that stays within the account, but is just a different item, then we can do that within staff, and I just inform the board. If it's something that requires a change to a different account, then the board has
Is
to get
that still a
involved.
$25,000 limit for the park district on projects?
Well, that's something different. That's a purchasing authority, but it's 30,000.
Oh, so we're not- okay.
But that's for bid limits.
Right.
That's the purchasing
I
for
gotcha.
having to go out to bid.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a real-time example for that. So for me, it's like, I've heard a lot of complaints that the water fountains are either broken, or they're missing a chiller, or whatever. And for me, that, it hasn't been planned for 2026. It's gonna be a disappointment, because you're gonna hear the same complaints again. And I don't know if you planned on that stuff to replace them or not. If you have, great. If you haven't, it's like, for me, it's like that should be a high priority for next year. And if you could fit it in this year somehow, it would be great.
So to feed that discussion, this group would need to quickly figure out, even if we started with this list or another one. you know,
Right.
I'm just gonna say, there's no way we're getting all this done
Oh,
in
hell
'26,
no.
maybe not '27 either.
No,
But there is a way to figure out what our priorities are and bubble them to the
Yeah.
top. And then
Yeah.
we start pushing those. Are they possible for '26?
you're reading my
Are
mind.
they
John.
small? Could they dovetail in? Are
Right.
they larger? Do they fall
You're
down?
100%.
So it almost seems like we
Line
need to
of
have a,
thought.
what is our process for prioritization? That needs to be an agenda item at some point.
Yeah,
And some of this wouldn't be capital anyway. Some of these, you know, just right off the top, like the ball washer, additional rakes, that type of stuff would not be capitalized. That would
Yeah.
just be course accessory.
yeah, I was
expenses.
just trying to think of everything I could think
Yeah,
of.
yeah, for
So
sure.
there, you
Okay.
know, there used to be a ball washer in 18, there isn't one. I assume you want to replace it.
And I think that a big part of the prioritization process would be just a quick pass through Miles and Kemper, because when I look at this list, I don't know which one of these things is, you know, just tightening a wrench one afternoon versus a large capital project. And so having as part of the priority system, a loop back where, you know, they might take half of this and say, fine, we'll have this done by the end of the week.
Yeah, high level
Yeah,
estimate.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I kind of, the stuff at the top, I was kind of hoping the stuff that hopefully is low hanging fruit and possible, but if it isn't, so be it. But I think it's important for Troy and John and I to know that, because, you know, golfers are gonna be in our ears, because we're out there. It's like, what the hell, why didn't you take care of this? No, you're on that advisory committee.
So,
Da, 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 da.
For this list, since this was not in the board packet for this meeting,
No,
should I address each of these and then present for the next meeting?
So what I think that we need to look at, because I don't know, I assume, Mickey, that this came from you?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
And only me, by the way.
Okay, so with this and it not being on the agenda, so when we post the minutes from this meeting, this will be attached. However, that won't be approved until the next meeting, right?
100%.
So what may be helpful, so we have a list from one advisory board member. If the other advisory board members want to provide something to staff that can be looked at, and we can provide a report on all of the things and provide that to everybody at the next meeting. Not a, hey, this is done, or hey, this is, you know,
Right.
something we've added to the budget or anything like that. But here is the starting point of all of the things
Mhm.
that have been brought to us at this point, and we can give an idea of, is this feasible, is this not feasible, is, you know, can we buy a couple of rakes in the budget? Probably. But
Right.
are we able to, you know, build the new clubhouse? No. So it's one of those things where it's, I want to be able to have something, and then knowing that these are public meetings, we want to be able to, for the public that will be watching, because this will be,
Okay.
we're being recorded, it'll be available for people to watch, that they have the opportunity to understand that and know what's being then presented to the park board. And that all the advisory board members have a chance to provide input
Right.
on that and have the time to internalize it. So that way, it's more of a conversation.
Yeah, so, I mean, John, I know you got one about the walking path off of T, so
Yeah, I mean,
any
very,
list
very,
that you
very,
have, put it together.
But I guess what I think it'd be helpful is, and we have to do this within confines of this open meeting forum, but can we internally create a list, run it by Miles, and then add that to the agenda for the next meeting?
It can be provided to staff and Miles, and then we can consolidate for the
Okay,
advisory board
perfect.
meeting.
Perfect, because what I don't wanna have happen is that, again, we come up with an idea and Miles already has it in his short-range plan, like,
Right.
we don't even need to discuss it anymore. Right, so
Yeah.
I just don't wanna, like, waste everybody's time.
Maybe that is part of the long-term structure of the agenda where, I see one of the benefits of this advisory committee is having outreach to the community that the board might not otherwise have. And it might be a list of, 6,000 things. And to be fair, on Miles' side, it's a advisory committee, so if it ends up being overwhelming to go through all these lists all the time, I think that's we should get some pushback on that as well. But that could be a part of every meeting for you guys to be there as outreach. And if
Right.
somebody comes to one of us, somebody on the board and says, hey, who do I talk to about golf? Like, go talk to these guys on the advisory committee. They'll bring it to the meeting. They'll get on the list. They can run it through by Miles. And all
Right.
that. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't wanna see anything be out of bounds. There's a fine line between out of bounds and controversial, cause we don't want 60 people showing up going, what the hell you guys think you're doing? But I don't think we're going down that path. I mean, you've got an idea, hey, I'd love to have a mode walking path off of Tees. Okay, well, probably not contemplated, talk about it. Maybe it can't be done this year, maybe it'll never be done. But let's bring it up. And so, I'd like those, I don't wanna limit people's thinking out of the box for stuff.
Yeah.
The more stuff we can get on paper.
I mean, the ultimate goal is to improve the facility,
Oh,
make your
100%.
job better, so. yeah,
100%.
Yeah, make it easier for you to budget.
Okay, so did we?
So quick question, Mickey, before we go
Yeah.
on the budget, I did have a chance to review the budget, Miles, and I'm just, because I don't know what the optimization of the course is, like, I know you increased your budget this year and you guys have reviewed this, like, is that through just fee increases, or is there an increase in optimization planned as part of that?
There is a small increase in rounds, that is predominantly through par three rounds. Optimizing rounds on the par three course, I think we're pretty underutilized on that course. 18-hole rounds are effectively, the same,
Okay,
negligible increase. So the 18-hole, rate increase is where most of that driving is
And
gonna
I
go.
think you
The additional.
accounted for additional in F&B.
Yes, we did.
And Nutria pays a fee to play the golf course?
They do,
Okay, so that's still planned for this year for them to play the course?
correct.
Okay.
so I'm just thinking about feasibility of hitting the budget and how that's gonna create capital constraints or not, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the overall increase for 26 over what our final was for but as far just strictly revenue is about 200,000. So 8%-ish. Negligible.
Thank God for golf carts and drainage.
And driving ranges.
Driving ranges.
Driving ranges, for
And
sure.
not having to pay for potable water and not having to pay taxes for stormwater. Okay, anything else on item 3.4? Okay, so John, I'll start for you for any other advisory board
No, I echo
comments.
what Troy said, like, I thank everybody for putting this together, you know, having the foresight to do it, and hope that we can contribute, and that the contribution is of value.
Yeah, and are we gonna open this up to Jeff and Scott for them to say some stuff too? I'll let you know.
They're allowed to.
Well, I think we should.
Yeah.
I feel like I've said so much already.
I'm trying to pry it out of you, Jeff, whatever I can do. So a couple things for me. One, I would echo, thank you for putting this together. When I was on the park board and Kemper got the contract for this stuff, and I initially met with Vince, literally the words out of my mouth were, hey, if you're looking for someone to be an advisor for you, I will volunteer at no cost. And so, you know, that didn't directly lead to this, but that's the point of it, is John, Troy, and I get constant feedback when we're on the golf course. We think it's important stuff, not all of it, but some of it is relevant stuff. We want to make sure the park board and Kemper is aware of it. So I think this is great to be able to put stuff on the table. I have one suggestion for a discussion point, which I would want as an agenda item at the next meeting, is a structure to get volunteers to work on the golf course. So the background on that, and I bored Jeff with this, is, you know, before the golf course was open in 2023, I mowed fairways when people thought it was nuts. I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, granted, I was at the maintenance shed at 4:45 in the morning, not my cup of tea normally, but just kind of work. And I enjoyed doing it, and I didn't ask for anything to do it. And I've always kind of said, hey, can we try to get volunteers? There's a lot of people who are retired, the board, maybe they'd like something to do. It's not a full-time job. Can we figure something out so people in that position, if they want to do some volunteer work on a golf course, which would not be a health risk or not, I know there's limitations. So that'd be something I'd like to put on as a discussion point for the next meeting. Last thing I have, which is a request, and I will go on record saying I will pay for this, so this is really out there. There was an apple tree on the eighth hole. It had the best apples I've ever eaten in my life. And I begged Costa, and who was the architect? The architect for the golf course.
Jacobson.
Thank you, Rick Jacobson. I begged him, dude, if you're gonna take it down, I will pay for another tree. I will tell you today, I will pay to have an apple tree put out on the course if we can do it. Long-term, and I'm dead serious. I would not want the park district or anyone to pay a penny on it. If you guys can tell me what it will cost, I'll send the money to the Parks Foundation and said, hey, apple tree on the golf
So
course.
maybe we put that on our agenda of short and long-range plans, because if there's a whole area to the left of 3 that could be a perfect orchard for multiple trees, not
Yeah.
just one. Yeah.
Well, I don't want it to be the people coming on a golf course with their kids and stuff and on weekends picking apples. I don't want an orchard out
Yeah.
there. This was like, as I played the 8th hole, I went by the tree, popped an apple, and I kept going.
I went higher and knocked one of the
Yeah,
trees.
as it got up a little higher, it was like knocked a tree, but I didn't stand on top of the cart to do that. So anyway,
apple
that's a
trees.
personal thing. Do we have any other items?
Do you want to make any comments, Jeff?
What was going through my mind is, I think this advisory board is gonna serve an important purpose. I think, you guys have your ears to the ground much more with the community than some of us do. And I think sometimes the board needs that feedback to hear those things, you're looking at this list in front of you, but what you're not seeing is these items. And I can explain to you why this is a priority and why it might be a good thing to do, because there's high value and there may be low cost associated with it, and something we can pull off. The board considers and looks across a lot of things, and we don't always get into the details, so I think that would help us greatly with that, so.
Sure.
Looking forward to having that benefit come out of this group.
Yep.
I'd just like to thank you guys, Mickey, John, and Troy, for taking the time to do this. I think the feedback coming in is gonna be great. Looking at this list, I just wanna, be thankful that our golf course is in great shape and it's had a great year. And I'm looking at this list as like, hey, this would be nice if the water fountains would be better. This would be great if we had an apple tree. We're in a really good position with the golf course. My point of view of this, what this is, from the point of view of the board, we don't have any advisory committees right now. This is sort of an experiment. We talked about whether we should have them or not. And we decided to start with the golf advisory committee to see how it goes. And I think a benefit that the board is gonna get out of this is, my experience in the board meetings is we often make kind of random decisions. A problem will come up and someone will come up with a solution, and then there'll be a motion, and then a second, and then a vote, and then boom, that's the policy. And for golf, things need more discussion. So hopefully things will bubble, a lot of things will bubble up from this advisory committee to the board and to golf. Hopefully a lot of things will bubble down from us, where now we have a way that we have something where we can say, hey, let's send this to the committee and let them talk about it for, weeks if necessary. And then they can come back with a solution to this instead of some of the arbitrary decisions that can get made on the fly. So, yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Miles?
Yeah, I guess I'm excited to work with all of you, and thank you for setting this up. And, yeah, I think it's gonna be really constructive for us to see the viewpoints of golfers, and I know that the three of you kind of have your ear to the ground. And so, to be able to get that viewpoint and the perspective, I think is gonna be very helpful, and, I think that goes both ways.
Okay. Melissa? Did I say that right?
Elisa.
Elisa, sorry.
I don't have any.
Saba?
No updates, just nice to meet everybody, and,
You too. Thank you.
and I'm here
Okay.
if you have any questions.
Shannon, I'll end it with you.
Yeah, as a member of staff, I wish everybody the best of luck in all of this, and figuring out, what you want to accomplish. And, I think it's a great way to get the community more involved. And I hope that once this is able to get, posted and people see it, see the meeting and see it's not a terrible, horrible thing, that we can get more applications to join the Golf Course Advisory Board. So that's all. I appreciate everybody volunteering their time to participate.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be fun.
Shannon, quick question. Are there restrictions on these guys talking? Are there open meeting act?
It is Open
stuff?
Meetings Act stuff,
Okay.
yes.
So if the
That's
three of
good.
us meet on our own,
Don't do
3
it.
minutes?
Can't.
Don't do it.
It sucks so bad, like, when you wanna, like, I don't know.
Well, you end
like-
up having 2 meetings, Scott, that's how it works.
Yeah,
You can't
I-
go- John and I will
Can't
talk,
golf
and then,
together.
okay.
It's like, hey,
you're
here's a
gonna call
problem.
Troy, or am I
I
gonna
know,
call
right,
Troy?
yeah, but it's like, here's
crazy,
a
but
problem
that's-
we need solved, like, okay, we can't talk about it.
Well,
Yeah.
the way to talk about it is during these meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there is something that needs to be discussed and brought to the meetings, it's creating that agenda item
Yeah.
to make sure that it can be discussed in open session, because this is an advisory board that is subject to the Open Meetings Act. So we have to abide by that. And when it comes to any communications, whether it's sending it to staff, we can send something out to everybody, but it's best to avoid that from the advisory board members' perspective. And if there's something that needs to go out to everybody on the advisory board, we can do that as staff. but no conversations and no making decisions. And the good thing is that it's advisory board, so you can't make many decisions anyway.
Right, true. So this is, it's minutia, but it's not minutia, because I've seen it go sideways on the park board. So in terms of communications, if John wants to send an email to Miles,
He can do that.
should he copy you and I?
He can do that.
Or he can do it direct, or,
He
you know.
can do that.
So, yeah, but I want to make sure this is the way I want
I
communications to go.
think the issue is when you want to send it to more than two.
Well, it's an email, so
Right.
that doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately.
It doesn't have to be minutes on an email.
No, but an email is construed as a meeting in the open minutes
So,
request.
yeah, so if I wanted to send a message to most of you, I would send it to all of you. I mean, CC the people that it's not directed to, so they're informed of it. What I want to avoid is an email going just to Shannon, or an email just going to Miles. And it doesn't end up on an agenda, and it doesn't get discussed, or it becomes controversial, because was my experience on the park board.
The best thing to do as far as making sure that staff is aware, if Saba has it,
Okay?
she's going to make sure that everybody on our team knows about it.
Perfect.
And
Yeah, that's
that,
my point. That's my
that's
goal.
the best thing.
Okay.
Mickey, from your perspective, I would avoid sending things to all of the advisory board members.
I'm not planning on it.
So that way, again, as long as Saba has it, whether I'm copied or Miles is copied or whatever, that doesn't matter, but as long as Saba has it, she can make sure that
Right.
everybody that needs it will have it.
Right,
So
so
Shannon, we agreed that both Troy and I are required now to come up with our own version of the Mickey list. You want us to send that only to Saba then?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and I forgot where I was going with the next thing, but we'll work it out. That's what happens when you get older. Right out of my mind. All right, if there's nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Shannon, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
Thanks,
setting
y'all.
this together. I
Thank you all.
appreciate it, Miles, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
And 5:25. And I don't have to do meeting minutes.